Identity politics has always been a part of the left. The left has always recognized there's what's called the class question. Sometimes it was called originally, you talk about 1900s, late 1800s, it was called the social question or the class question. And then some questions, it was understood from the get-go, weren't reducible to the class question. So if you go back then, you'll see all these pamphlets by leftists. They would be called the woman question.
The Jewish question.
Then there would be the Negro question. And then there would be the Jewish question. These are by leftists. People trying to wrestle with the idea that there's something about these oppressions which are not reducible to the class question. So recently I was reading Rosa Luxemburg, and this is a statement she makes in 1907. So we're talking about over a century ago. She says, proletarian women, the poorest of the poor, the most disempowered of the disempowered. That is, there's a special category of proletarian women who are more disempowered than anybody else in the class, of working people. They have a special kind of burden, a special kind of oppression. The disempowered of the most disempowered of the disempowered. So the idea of identity politics, without the terminology, but the concept was there from the get-go. And then the question was, how do these two kinds of oppression interact, both at a theoretical level and at a practical level? Should women organize separately from the socialist movement, or should they only organize from within the socialist movement? Should bourgeois women be included in the category of oppressed women? All those sorts of things. I'm not saying necessarily successfully, but they were all wrestled with, and they all have a history that goes back more than a century. Now, Barbara mentions the case of the women who were murdered in Boston, and of course she knows, again, I'm saying something which you all know, but maybe the listeners don't know. The Communist Party played a big role in the Scottsboro Boys case. Namely, they recognized that blacks experience a special kind of racial oppression, which everybody else, even the white working class movement, recoiled at defending. The Communist Party plays a big role. There was the Willie McGee case. There are many cases you can, list. And I know Robin Kelly knows 10,000 times more about this than me. He's written on it extensively. I'm just saying it's not something new. Ms. Crenshaw, she came up with a nifty buzzword, intersectionality, and she seems to be of the opinion that a buzzword is a concept. No, a buzzword is a buzzword. The concept, I'm not saying it was successfully resolved, but it has been debated. There are many black people who went into the Communist Party, like Richard Wright, the author, and then who were not pleased with the way the Communist Party was handling the Negro question, and he left the Communist Party. If you read, which I did read in my 20s, Harold Cruz's The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual, a large part of it is how he felt the Communist Party misused blacks. But that issue has always been there. The notion of intersexuality, multiple
Sectionality. Freudian slip there.
What did I say?
Intersexuality.
Intersectionality, double, triple oppressions. As I said, Fran Deal was already talking about triple jeopardy in the mid-1970s. When I knew her, those are, as I said the other day to somebody who was not happy with what I said, that's as old as the hills. Now, what then is this new thing, this newfangled thing called identity politics? What identity politics nowadays is, it's the identity stripped of the class component. If you read Robin DiAngelo, if you read Ibram X. Kendi, if you read all of them, you'll see and Kimberly Crenshaw, you'll see a couple of stray passing phrases to class. You have to throw it in. You have to throw it in, otherwise you're not bona fide radical. But they strip it of the class content, and the essence of identity politics now is we want to get a fair share of that 1%. We want to end the disparities, as they call it. And what's the disparity that concerns them? That they are 13% African Americans, they're 13% of the population, but they don't hold 13% of the positions among the 1% who control everything. Actually, I think it's more like 20%. It's not really 1%, but since we know the slogan, we are the 99%, and the 1%, I'll just use metaphorically, the 1%. And that's what identity politics has come to mean, whatever you might say it means in theory. And then for me, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, which is to say, let's set aside the theory, let's set aside the theorizing, and let's look at the practical facts. It was very striking that the main venues of identity politics now, like the New York Times, like MSNBC, those venues were also the most venomous, virulent attackers of the Bernie Sanders campaign. It was no holds barred to destroy the Bernie campaign, a class-based politics. And then all the identity politics spokespersons, Angela Davis, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Kimberly Crenshaw, they all joined in attacking Bernie. Ta-Nehisi Coates, Bernie's weak on the reparations question. Angela Davis, Bernie's weak on the black question. Kimberly Crenshaw, well, Bernie, and now I'm paraphrasing, Bernie's this old Jewish socialist schmuck. The real action is Amazon, Bezos, the corporations. They're the ones who are really advancing identity politics now. They're woke. And that, to me, spoke to the reality of identity politics. At the moment of truth, when you had the most radical political movement in the United States in a century, since the New Deal, since the 1930s, the whole identity politics coalesced, converged, formed a